Hi, Kristen.
Hey, Jennine. So
Hi.
nice to see you.
It's good to see you too. Yeah. What's funny? I was at the doctor like a couple of weeks ago talking about hormone replacement.
Mm.
And it was really interesting because they seemed like pretty open to it, but like I wasn't even sure like if I needed it or not. I just had heard a lot about it. And so I was wondering, since you were on hormone replacement therapy. Yeah, if you could tell me like what made you decide that this was like the right path for you?
Yeah, well, so interestingly, I had probably a unique path to going on it. I was interviewing a doctor for my previous podcast, and she had launched a telehealth company to help specifically to help women. Sort of like you see a lot of, I think there's like MIDI Health and like other telehealth companies that are similar and still doing it, but I think she was a little bit ahead of her time because this
Hmm.
was probably like 6 years ago or something like that. And so we were talking about the benefits and risks and things like that. And she said, "Yeah, I'll give you a free consultation. Here's a code, And I called up and used the service. And
Hmm.
they asked me several questions, but I literally just I had HRT in my mailbox 2 days later.
Mm. Wow.
And I wanted to go on it because I had very severe hot flashes. Like I was suffering with like drenched clothing
Oh my
multiple
gosh.
times a day. It was
Wow.
it was really not fun at all. That was my main symptom. Oh, well, along with weight gain, but HRT has not helped that. But anyway, so then when I went to Kaiser, now I'm at Kaiser, they honored the prescription. It wasn't the problem for me to just continue to get that prescription at Kaiser.
Hmm.
So that was sort of my unique route to HRT. But, a lot of women do kind of have to figure it out for themselves because doctors have different opinions. They have different education levels when it comes to menopause health. And yeah, so our upcoming guest has a really unique take on sort of taking matters into your own hands in a
Wow.
science-based way. And
Yeah.
but she's creating a documentary
Hmm.
called Menopunks.
Ooh, I love that. It's so Gen X.
Very, very Gen X, like the epitome of Gen X, I think, really, because we're all in menopause now, or at least
Mhm.
perimenopause. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so she's got a very Gen X take on all of it. And I'm really excited to share that conversation with our listeners.
Yay. Okay, cool. I'm really curious. I'm so excited that you brought her onto the show. So, let's go talk to her.
Let's do it.
Hi, welcome to the Closet Philosophy Podcast. This is Jennine. I'm a personal stylist.
And this is Kristen. I'm a fashion writer, and we're here to uncover the ways that your personal style is so much more than just clothes.
Whether you realize it or not, what you wear touches on science, psychology, culture, politics, and so much more.
We are so excited to welcome documentary film director Alicia Rose, who is working on an upcoming film called Menopunks. It's a myth-busting feature documentary about perimenopause and menopause and the creative process seen through the lens of defiant Gen X musicians, trailblazing doctors, and opinionated celebrities. Alicia is an award-winning filmmaker and photographer who has directed more than 3 dozen music videos for artists including First Aid Kit, Cake, and Bob Mold. She directed the acclaimed series The Benefits of Husbandry, and her feature directorial debut, A Kaddish for Bernie Madoff, won multiple awards. She is currently directing Jewish feminist discovery show Girls in Trouble, the series. Alicia is also a lifelong musician with a storied history as a college radio DJ, rock show promoter, and indie music distribution business leader. Alicia and her fellow filmmakers believe that access to hormonal optimization is power.
Mm.
Alicia, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here to chat with you.
Yay, so glad you're here. Awesome. Yeah, so we want to just like dive right in, and
Yeah.
I'd love to hear more about your inspiration for the Menopunks documentary.
Yeah.
Why did menopause need a punk voice?
Good question, Janine. Okay, first of all, I think that intersecting punk rock and science is the way to go. Menopause and perimenopause, as you know, has been through a million different sort of iterations of shame and stigma and silence and misinformation. It's confusing, right? Anybody who hits menopause, which by the way is half the population eventually, no matter what, because nobody's escaping menopause. So we all have questions, right? If you get into your 40s and 50s and you're starting to feel like crap, you're like, what is happening to me? And you try to figure out what's going on in the world, and you're just met with a lot of chaos and a lot of really conflicting information that makes it really difficult to know what to do or how to do it. And once you decide you even want to pursue hormone therapy, if you want to pursue hormone therapy, then there's a whole nother like mess of boundaries and problems and hurdles you have to leap over and over and over, and it's preposterous. So I think that what happens in the menoverse, as it were, is that people are often trying to sell people things while they're giving them advice, which can be really disheartening. It's really tough. And I think Gen X is pretty discerning and we don't really like to be sold to or marketed to. And I think menopause is bigger than just a women's issue, and perimenopause as well. So I think that intersecting science and punk rock is the way to speak to everybody by a kind of couching the journey to menopause and the fight that we're having for hormonal optimization reclamation through punk. It really makes it relatable in this way and sort of cool in a way, which I think is difficult for menopause. I really wanted to make a film that kind of cut through all the bullshit and really allowed people to relate in a way that didn't sort of denigrate us in the process and take advantage of us in the process. So Menopunks is really like, it's about sort of seeing menopause and perimenopause through a punk rock musical creative lens in terms of quality of life and what you lose if you just kind of raw dog it and what you
Yeah.
can gain if you don't. Like if you're looking at how you can feel better, how you can pursue the best quality of life. And when you see somebody thriving at 58, you're like, what the fuck? You know, if you're like going through perimenopause and menopause, you're like, I feel like hell. You see like a 56-year-old be like J-Lo or something. Yeah. You know, just like rocking and rolling and wearing the Merkins or whatever. Like, God bless them. But, you know, you're like, how do I feel like that? It's so confusing. But I really think that that's the most powerful tool we have to invigorate our generation, right? Is to model it through creative people. And there's nothing more democratizing to a nightmare like menopause and perimenopause than to hear Corin Tucker or Jody Bliley or Kathy Foster, any of my primary participants, talk about how miserable they feel too. And you just don't feel alone. So I don't know. I think that coming at it through the creative process, nay, punk rock, however, whatever you want to call it, is the way to go because it really highlights the stakes, right? And the cost of what happens if you're not pursuing a higher, better quality of life. If you think that there's no option, and then you, as this incredible artist, is sort of left with no options.
Yeah, I think that's what you said that punk rock is sort of the it's the sort of the epitome of cutting through the bullshit. I
Yeah,
think that's so
exactly.
important in menopause because in the menopause marketing world, like you were describing, because there is so much being sold right now,
So
and
good.
it does get really confusing. Like, okay, that person seems really believable, but they're also trying to make money off of this. So like, what do I really believe? And I think that the
Right.
lens that you're offering, I mean, to me at least, seems a little more honest because punk rockers and like,
Mhm.
I don't know, Gen X musicians in general, it's like it's an indie vibe. It's not ooh, let's make money off of this thing. It's more like let's tell the truth to power.
Mhm.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, we do not want to hear from Oprah. I got to tell you, like, it's great that Oprah's doing the work. And then you've got Halle Berry, you know, and all these celebrities kind of throwing their now Queen Latifah for Weight Watchers. You know, like the amount of monetization going into women's suffering is like so mind blowing. And it's not about the truth about hormone
Yeah.
therapy. It's not about myth busting or taking down the misinformation, trying to set a new baseline of truth and self advocacy, which is exactly what I'm trying to do with this film. It's about like how does Queen Latifah make money and how does she monetize menopause through for the sake of Weight Watchers, who's not making any money anymore through through weight loss because now it's Ozempic, right? So like how do you like they're all just trying to make a buck. And you know what? A billion women are going to be in menopause by 2030. So I get it, but the
Mhm.
problem is that like that's not a good thing to only be taken advantage of. Like we as a generation, like I have a secret agenda, which is not secret at all, which is that I see the issue with this nightmare world we're living in and the fight that we're having to maintain our fucking bodily autonomy and our human rights. And then I look at Gen X and I'm like, where are we in this fight? Where are we? We're certainly not running everything like we thought we would be in the 90s. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
things happen. Like I've discovered basically a scandal and a disaster that went down that led to the Women's Health Initiative releasing the now, storied results that hormone therapy causes breast cancer, which is still killing us all and taking us into this place of misery all the time. So, we want the truth, but we don't want it from Oprah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that I really wanted to ask you about your sort of interpretation of the Women's Health Initiative. You mentioned I was really interested in the way you described it on your website. That well, the website describes it as we're all starting to realize slowly that those results were skewed, they were not accurate. They scared a whole generation of women who did not who all went off of hormone therapy, and then
Mm.
the generation following them didn't even start taking it because they were scared. I still have so many
Absolutely.
friends who are like, oh, well, my aunt had a stroke after she started
Oh my
hormone therapy,
God.
so I'm afraid to take it because of all this other, stuff associated with it. So, but you mentioned on the website, or the website mentions that there was like a purposefulness in this inaccuracy. And
Yeah.
that's what I'd love to hear from you. Like, what is that intentionality that you're finding through the making of your film?
Well, I'll back up a little bit and say that when I first started making this film, it was not about like, an expose. That was not my intention. I was starting to make a film about me and my friends who are musicians in bands who felt like complete fucking shit and thought we lost our lives. And then through, against the odds and through all this misinformation, decided it was worth the risk to start taking hormone replacement therapy. And what we found on the other side was insane. We found ourselves again. We found our quality of life again. We found our energy again. And after that, I was like, what? So wait a second. Like you telling me it's going to kill me, but I'm taking it and it's not killing me. And I feel fucking fantastic. What the
Mm.
hell? And so then I started, I'm a curious, Gen Xer, and I will not take no for an answer. So, menopunk. I am a menopunk. I want to know what's up. Why? Why was I led to think that this was going to hurt me? Why, is it so difficult for women to get the truth? Why? It wasn't just, oh, because you look at, I think there's a lot of films out there that are great. I'm not complaining about them. I'm glad there's any films. We have so much work to do in this space that like any film is great, any website, anything, honestly, anything is great just to get the word out about this. But the problem is nobody usually asks why. Why did this happen? And why have we been suffering for 23 years with these lies dictating our healthcare? I mean, literally, it's baked into, the medical establishment
Mhm.
that hormone therapy causes breast cancer. It's not true. There have been study after study after study, and yet the narrative still persists. So I don't know. I'm just like a curious freak. So I just started digging and I'm like, well, okay, what's out there? And I found articles just, disputing those results and calling for an independent investigation. This one particular person, his name is Wolf Uti, and he founded the North American Menopause Society. I'm like, he wrote this. Is he around? So I Google, oh my God, he's got a website. I write him. And then I do some more deep diving, and there's this incredible scientist, one of the folks that was actually on the WHI, the Women's Health Initiative studies, named Bob Langer, Dr. Langer, and he had written all these articles saying this is not true. How can we take this narrative back? But yet nothing has changed. And I was like, he's got a website. I want to write him a letter too. So I like write all these people just like my own volition, wanting to know what happened, not thinking I'm going to make an expose film about menopause, just thinking like, why? Like, why are we in this situation? And I wound up interviewing both of them, and I want to interview them more. But right now, I've done my initial interviews with them, and what I found fucking just like made my hair curl. It was straight before today. No, I'm just kidding. It, like what they told me was so like devastating to what I thought I knew, that my jaw just dropped and I was like, wow, this movie is something different. It's what I want it to be on many levels. Like it is about women struggling with the creative process and finding their way through menopause and perimenopause through hormonal optimization, or at least understanding the truth about hormone therapy, but it's also like getting into what actually happened. So I am working with three, if not more, they're stacking up, physicians, doctors who are specifically menopause therapists in different fields. And one of them specifically, Aoife O'Sullivan, who is like, absolute girl crush times 1,000. She's just the coolest fucking person in the world. But she really like radicalized me. I went to this thing called the Portland Menopause Conference, and she started talking about what really happened. And it turns out that, okay, please interject because this could be kind of a long story. But in 1993, when the Women's Health Initiative study began, Clinton was president, Hillary Clinton, all of that feminism was having a moment, Riot Girl was happening. And they're like, let's do a study for the first time, really like looking at a lot of women. It was a cardiovascular study, but it had a hormone therapy element to it. It was women over the age of 50. And they used the Golden Girls and popular culture to enlist over 165,000 women into the study. Incredible, right? Like, help your mothers, help your sisters, help your friends. Like, this is the future. Because at this point, you guys, by 1993, 25% of women in the like menopausal, perimenopausal range were on hormones. 25%. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and this was supposed to be further like empowering women. Like it was sort of
yeah.
like, and I was going to ask you about that the Golden Girls were actually involved in recruiting subjects
Yes,
for that's so
they were.
crazy.
They were. Well, and it's funny, is at the end of the Golden Girls' reign, like they ended, I think, in 92 or 93, but they were
Mm.
used at the end,
Oh,
at their height of their popularity to rope everybody into this, which was ostensibly going to be a great thing. It was like the most money that had ever been spent on women's health in the history of the fucking universe. And they used the
yeah.
Golden Girls to rope them in, which I think is great. None of that's an issue. And the study
Yeah.
itself was really about like there's been so much success with hormone therapy at this point. Women were being prescribed it like thyroid medication or diabetes. It wasn't a fight. It was like, oh, you feel you have a hot flash? Here's some hormones. Of course, duh. It was just like, you want it,
Mhm.
you got it. It wasn't a
Yeah.
fight, right? Which is really, think about that. This is 1993.
Yeah.
We're on a trajectory, right?
Mm.
So this study continues, it continues. And then 2002 rolls around. We have 9/11, obviously in 2001. We've got George Bush in office. And at this point, $1 billion had been spent on this study. And the study had been abruptly stopped in 2002 because a far sort of outlying wing of this study, which, by the way, the study was for women between the ages of 50 and 80, all postmenopausal. None of them were in perimenopause. This was a
Mhm.
study that was looked at to figure out if women could take hormones forever. That was why. Like, is it the fountain of youth? Can they take them forever? Can we feel good forever? Is this possible? I mean, this is the same conversation we're having now, ironically, 23 years later, because
Yeah.
we had this 23-year fucked up stopgap of misinformation, right?
Mhm.
So just wild. So, like, we're thinking, okay, well, it's 2002, all the shit's going down, $1 billion had been spent, and the study itself sort of released nil results. Yes, it got abruptly stopped because of this outlying arm with 70-year-old, basically like smokers getting breast cancer. This was the
Mhm.
result. And this particular study, I've heard from Bob Langer and all these other people, was, just like most big studies, they work with an abundance of caution, right?
Mhm.
So that something was going on that wasn't what they were hoping was enough to stop it temporarily. But the guy who ran the WHI, his name is Jacques Rousseau, he and Congress seized upon this moment to basically create a different narrative than the truth. Because the truth was that the study was kind of nil. It was women over the age of 50. They found out that women who were younger thrived. And they found out that women that were older didn't always thrive. Because if you don't know this, menopause is, once you're in menopause proper, it's an extreme hormonal deficiency akin to castration, right?
Oh
And if
yeah, because you have zero, your estrogen is zero.
gone,
It's gone.
gone. So
Yeah.
you are sucked dry. And if you have no hormones in your body and you're just raw dogging it, your body, I hate to say it this way, but your body basically starts eating itself and it starts working around not having these primary healing, incredible givers of life hormones, testosterone, micronized progesterone, and estradiol, all bioidentical, identical to what's in our body, right? So, like, without those things, our bones start falling apart, our brains start shriveling, our everything starts shriveling, basically. Like, and
Mhm.
if you don't know, like dementia and Alzheimer's are women's diseases that now are being linked to hormone deficiency in middle age that manifest in older age. Like, this is why we're dealing with this huge issue of, you know, uh, boomers in nursing homes, our parents with UTIs and fucking dementia and Alzheimer's. it's hormone deficiency. They got kicked off it. They were in the crosshairs, but
But so that PR around it at that
yeah,
time, I'm curious what you started to say about Congress getting involved, because I was
yeah.
a reporter at the time and I got
Oh,
that press release in my
wow.
email and I was like, holy shit, like is my mom on hormones? This is terrifying. Like she needs to stop them
Hmm.
immediately. If and like I wrote an article based on this because it looked like
Mm.
horrible, horrible news for hormones. And I was 30. I didn't know. Like
Right.
so yeah, I mean, I'm curious about that. Like, how did this, did you find some things
Yeah.
about how this press release came together and became sort
Yes.
of slanted the way it was?
Yes. So here's the thing that really blew my mind and devastated my brain once I realized what actually happened with this report. I was like, oh God, everybody needs to know this. Like, if I can tell this to Margaret Cho and Nico Case, they're going to have an opinion about this. This is insane. So this like, this article that got written that you saw in 2002 was, typically in a study like this, it's the scientists and the researchers that are being polled to have the results in the
Yeah.
study. But this time it got taken away from them. And
Huh.
admin, this guy who ran the study, along with people within the administration element of the Women's Health Initiative, and I believe people in Congress, they kind of directed this to them. They took the results and the results paper away from the scientists. They wrote the whole thing themselves. And then there was a big conference where all the scientists who were involved were there to discuss what was going to be in the report, but they were presented with a finished written report. And they got this. Bob Langer was like, oh, they're like, it's done. I thought we were here to talk about it. They're like, it's done.
Oh.
Here it is. And they're like, you can't release this. This is in 2002. The scientists, I have this on record. The scientists are like, you cannot release this. This is going to destroy women's lives. This is going to like make a huge mark on the entire medical establishment. It's going to mess up medicine for women for years. It's going to be a disaster. You've got to let us change this. We have to be able to put input into this. And so they're like, okay, we see what you're saying. We'll give you like 7 hours to rewrite this and then
What the?
deliver it to the publisher. This is like another movie I want to make. And Glenn Close, if you're listening, I'm going to cast you just so you
Oh God, I
know.
hope Glenn Close is listening.
She's gonna be the head of the World Health Organization. I have a plan. Anyway, so I know what I'm doing. But so these scientists were sitting in this room. I mean, this is literally what happened. They got this report and they're like, you can't release this. This 7 hour window of change happened. And they're like, okay, we're gonna do this. They race against the clock because like it's gonna go to press. It's gonna go to press. They're gonna take it to literal like press, and then the article in Journal of American Medicine is going to go out to every single doctor in America, right? So
Yeah.
so these poor researchers are like, oh my God, they're freaking out. And they write it better. It's still kind of like not what they think it should be, but at least it's not going to mislead people and
Hmm.
misinform people. And then Bob Langer, like they run it to like the offices of JAMA, Journal of American Medicine. They run it in just under the wire to when they were told they could put it in. They hand it to the publisher, and the publisher's like, why are you giving this to me? It's already printed in warehouses. So there was a chance.
Wow.
There was a chance this could have been rectified in 2002 by the actual scientists and researchers who were on the study. But no, they wanted a win for Congress because they had spent so much money. And at this point, this is the George Bush administration. They're like, women schwimmen. Like it wasn't the same. It was now the same conservative bullshit we're dealing with. It was the same Tea Party assholes, the same 2025 Project 2025 dipshits who are all like too smart for their own good. They're dipshits, but they're too smart, right? So they're
Right.
like planning at this point. We know, remember all the Tea Party stuff? Like they were trying to figure out how do we, like make this into a win for us? Well, the win was that we saved women from themselves. That was the strongest narrative that they could come up with. It was like, oh, this thing that by 2002, by the way, 40% of women were on hormones. It went up from 25% to 40% in 2002. And this was the line that went out, that it's going to cause breast cancer, because then it made it a win for spending $1 billion in Congress. It was nuts. So this is what went out. It went out to press first, to meet the press, to Charlie Rose, to People Magazine. Like it went out
Yeah.
to everybody.
It went to
Everybody.
wired.com because that's where I was working. It went
Yes,
everywhere. It
it
went to
went
all the
everywhere. And it went before Journal of American Medicine, which is ironic too, because any actual like doctor who knew what they were talking about, if they read the report itself wasn't
it wasn't dramatic.
necessarily, I mean,
It
it
wasn't
wasn't it wasn't really dramatic. And if you really read into it, you're like, actually, those are like statistically non-significant results that they're reporting on. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand how they're connecting that to it causes breast cancer, but they seized on this because it became like the narrative that justified $1 billion being spent on women, which had never been spent before. So
I mean,
this
did
was
it
the thing
justify it though, or did it like put a
for
lid on
them.
it? And
Well,
was it like
yeah.
punishment for spending $1 billion? You know what I mean?
I
Mm,
mean, I think that's a good point. All of the above. But what it really was, if you look into like now, you look at this moment and we're all like, what the fuck? Like, how are they this good at destroying us and disempowering us? Well, I mean, I really feel like it was an intentional move to systemically disempower all women.
mm,
And they really did a good job because if you think about what they're doing now in terms of trying to take, hormones away from us through trans folk and take our bodily autonomy away through abortion, anti-abortion legislation, all this crazy shit, like
mm,
does it maybe seem surprising at all that they would take that opportunity to misinform women about the one thing that could give them quality of life? I mean, no, I don't think it's surprising at all. Like, or I'm not a conspiracy theorist, although sometimes I feel like I sound like one in the situation. But here's the kicker that's just gonna like hurt your brain even more. So they took it away from these poor scientists who were like, please don't do this. And Bob Langer, this scientist, he's like, when I talk to him, you guys, he's like, this is on the weight of my shoulder. Like this is on the weight of the world is on my shoulders with this. Like women shouldn't be suffering. The amount they've been exploited, the amount they have died, they have suffered. Like I know this is wrong. We know this
Mm.
is misinformation, but the narrative of hormone therapy causing breast cancer is so strong because he said, at least when he was doing his thing, that breast cancer is the greatest fear of women. Like that's how they don't want to die. They choose to die any other way, but dying from breast cancer is not how they want to go. So the
mm,
fact that something that could make them feel good could kill them was enough to make them
Right.
not want to feel good, right?
mm.
So,
Yeah.
and at this point, like everybody's being ripped off hormones, whether they're taking themselves off hormones, their daughters are telling them, get off, I don't want you to die.
Yeah.
They're deciding to take themselves off it. All of this is happening. So it's like this 40% of women goes down to like hardly anything, less than 10%. And you'd think, okay, well, that's still 10%. A few years later, in 2006, I think it was, Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential comes out. And get this, you guys, motherfucker who runs the Women's Health Initiative is voted one of Time's 100 Most Influential. And
Mm,
he, quote unquote, and this is stuck with me, quote unquote, they're like, it's a woman wrote it. They're like, who would have thought it would have taken a man to save women from themselves? And so this guy,
Ew.
Jacques Rousseau, he's never doubling back. He's never going back because this is now how he built a career. And all
yeah.
these other people around this narrative have built these massive careers. And then look at the industries that popped up without hormone therapy being the number one thing. We have SSRIs and statins and a million other drugs that basically, and supplements and all these things that are basically, the stopgap for all this
Mm,
suffering, right? But not the one thing that could actually systemically put us in a better position across the board. So
yeah.
that all happened. And here we are 23 years later from 2002. And guess how many women are accessing and currently taking hormone replacement therapy? Just guess a number now that I've given you 25 and 40. Where are we now?
I know I've read it, but it's not very many. It's still only like 15% or something like that, or less than that.
I laugh. That would be
Less.
amazing. I want that we're under 5%. I've heard
Oh
under
my God.
3%. So think about
That's
this, you guys.
interesting.
95% at least of women and people with ovaries are not accessing bioidentical hormone therapy, which for the vast majority of women is beyond safe. It's literally what's in our bodies, and we're
Mm,
just taking a tiny bit to find normalization. It's like
yeah.
mind blowing. So
And
we are under 5%.
it's
I
less hormone than contraception
Oh,
than the
yeah.
pill.
Then
And
then the
that's what
pill, then
kills me.
trans folks. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
because it's
yeah.
like when it's to like not get pregnant to like then it's okay to take hormones, but it's when
Hmm.
just to so we can feel better and have a better quality of life, live longer, be more vital, then it's like not okay.
I
Well, I mean,
mean,
to be fair, they are trying to take away birth control. So,
Yeah.
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 But like
Exactly.
one thing that I thought was like really interesting about the trailer of your film,
mm,
Menopunks, there was someone who mentioned that, if women were able to take hormones, it would change the world. And
Hmm.
so I'm wondering, like, we have like a sample of what it's like when 40% of women change the world. So, I
Hmm.
mean, for the change the world, 40% of women taking hormones. How did that affect women in like collectively at that point when there was that number of women taking hormone replacement therapy?
Well, I mean, in the positive, I think we were on a pretty profound trajectory to have women lead the world. I mean, quite frankly, especially in America. And
Mhm.
honestly, this study fucked everybody, not just America. It was became
Mhm.
the shot heard around the world that put
Yeah.
us behind instead of ahead of where we could be, right? So, think about Riot Girl. And actually, I think about feminism this way too. Go back to 1973, 1972, when Ms. Magazine really created a massive wave of feminism, right? Like
Mhm.
just by reflecting what was really going on in women's lives. I mean, they were just reporting on what was actually going on versus, sticking to some bullshit narrative that was mostly fueled by men about the sort of atomic family thing, right?
Mhm.
So like 1973, you think about that, we got abortion in 73. 72 was Ms. Magazine, 73 was abortion. Somewhere in the 70s was you can get a mortgage. Somewhere in the 80s is you can get a bank account. Like women started getting the real basic things, but
Credit
this is
cards.
all credit cards. Like we
Mhm.
didn't have to be married to get these things, we could do it on our own. This all tracks with the availability of hormone therapy and birth
Hmm.
control, right? And
Mhm.
abortion. Like all of these things, our empowerment, our autonomy in life tracks
Mhm.
with this, right? And even through the 90s, look at Riot Girl, which I was kind of adjacent to. And some of the folks in my film, like Corin Tucker and Jen Spraja and Gillian Hanner, they were all deeply involved in Riot Girl and indie punk at the very beginning, of course. But we were at that point now writing this whole new wave of feminism, right? Like
Mhm.
Hillary Clinton, whether you like her or not, at that point, she was kind of an icon in feminism. And there's a lot of other women who were really super strong and powerful. And it wasn't about like, oh, we're housewives. It was about, ooh, no, we're boss bitches, right? That was the vibe. And all throughout the 90s, if you look at the films, if you look at sort of where we were going with pop culture, it was empowerment, empowerment, empowerment. We all thought, of course, we're going to run the world. Duh. Like we feel great. We're smart. So I think we were on track, quite honestly, to do all the things we thought we were obviously going to do. But then in 2002, especially boomers, because we were 30, like you just mentioned, Kristen.
Mhm.
We're 30, we're like, whatever, menopause, schmenopause doesn't happen until I'm 50. I don't have to worry about this. It's not going to happen to me, whatever. And plus, our moms, who were the boomers, told us nothing. They did us no favors because they didn't prepare us for anything. If anything, it was just like be prepared to be invisible and to suffer. That's all I got out of menopause. Like there was nothing more than that.
Mhm.
That was the sort of, 411 on the 911. Like
It wasn't
you're
really spoken either. Like, I don't remember my mother ever saying the
yeah.
word menopause.
They
I just
did
Yeah.
remember her
it
being like,
was
oh my God, I'm really hot.
No, it was
But like,
Yeah.
shameful. It was this thing.
yeah,
It went from this thing where, oh, I feel a hot flash, have some hormones, feel better. Great. Woohoo. I'm going to run the world to, oh my God, I feel terrible. So terrible. I don't recognize myself. So
yeah.
terrible. I have no energy to engage. So terrible. I don't love my kids anymore. I can't feel love. So terrible that they don't want to be in that marriage. So terrible that they can't go to work. So terrible that they can't run for office. So terrible that they can't be on the
Mhm.
school board. So terrible that they can't take over the world. Like Andy Zeisler wrote this great article for salon.com. I'd highly recommend reading that was like Gen X women feel so terrible. They don't know how to figure out how they or why they feel so terrible. Like we feel so shitty that we don't know why we feel so bad and we don't know how to fix it. And that to me is sort of how it went from 40% of women on trajectory and us, of course, who weren't fucking with hormones. We were just like, doing what 30-year-olds do, just like living life and probably doing lots of other terrible things that are
Yeah.
illegal, but like having a really good time with it. We thought, of course, this is our life. We didn't even see this as it was going on. We didn't realize that it was, I mean, you were writing about it, but like most people didn't understand who were 30 that like our mothers were being screwed. We thought we just want them to live. This is a terrible disaster. Oh my God, hormones?
Yeah.
Like this is what's making them feel decent. Now they're gonna kill them. Oh my God. Like it was a nightmare. So like
Mhm.
the women who were primed Jennine to like take everything over like us, right? In their imagine right now, if you are on hormone therapy, imagine it being ripped out of your fucking hands. Imagine that like I feel better now personally than I felt at 35, which is crazy. I never thought I could feel
Mhm.
this good. Imagine, and I try to imagine somebody all of a sudden telling me this thing that feels completely benign, that's just literally helping me, is killing me from
Mhm.
some press release and then having me ripped out of my hands by my doctor. Like that would be a disaster. For me, for you, imagine if Gen X is finally getting it together with this. If it suddenly got
Oh
taken
my
away,
God.
just like birth control, just like
Mhm.
abortion, like it's a fucking nightmare, right? Like suddenly our bodies are not our own. So I think that, that our incredible trajectory through the 90s of Working Girl and Riot Girl and all these things that were going on, we really got like the brakes slammed on us after this. And so we as 30-year-olds might have been continuing that path, but it certainly wasn't easy during the Bush administration and
Mhm.
9/11 and kind of what was going on during the 2000s, just a different time. We didn't even know what was coming for us. We didn't understand that it was bullshit. We didn't know anything. So all of us just kind of went, well, whatever. And then I think a lot of us now are just truly suffering. I mean, I have so many friends who are getting hip replacements, who are having other issues, having brain fog issues or forgetful issues, who are having osteoporosis or
Oh
osteopenia.
yeah.
I mean, the list is so long that it's like we are suffering. Our generation is cut off at the pass. And so I see an opportunity here, and it's not to make money like Oprah, okay? Like what actual truth about hormone therapy and self-advocacy looks like, because we can do it. I feel like Gen X is in a position like we want it. We want to feel better. We're not fucking around. We don't want to feel like crap. We know we don't have to feel like crap. When I started taking hormones, I was like, oh, hold on. Hold on. Like I can feel this good. Whoa, 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 whoa. Why did I not know this? Why were
Mm.
we being told that it was going to kill us? And so I do feel like it's all connected, Jennine. And I think that it's important for us to think about that as a generation because, yeah, we weren't really paying attention. Maybe you were as a journalist, but generally we were not paying attention in 2002. And then our mothers were just like miserable for so many years. They didn't prepare us, tell us, and then menopause care effectively disappeared.
There's so much that came together to really like obfuscate the truth around menopause and hormones therapy because it's
Yeah.
like it was an unspoken thing because no one wanted to talk about like women's problems or whatever.
Mm,
And then
mhm,
that was already a thing. And then the WHI made it impossible to take the hormones that actually made people feel better. But then still nobody, our parents, our mothers didn't want to talk about it.
mm,
And so now we're left to like hack the situation, like you said, Alicia. And the scary thing though is that we're left to hack this information, but it's hard to tell what is the truth and what is just like a marketing
mhm,
maneuver. So I'm wondering, like, we mentioned a little bit about how like the punk ethos is sort of like cutting to the chase and like really cutting to the core of the truth. Like, how important do you think it is for the way you're going to be doing your storytelling in your film? How important do you think that is? It sounds like you're incorporating a little humor
oh
and
yeah.
like we said, the punk attitude. Like how important do you think that is to really get through to the truth and help women sort of bring everything together that they need to feel
Mm.
better?
Such a good question. Well, I'm kind of a pop. I'm just gonna say it. I'm like a pop culture slut. I've been working within the zone of like making media for people in pop culture forever. I'm like the person people go through to sort of get their creative vision out. And I've seen the power of how, music media and pop culture media can take a small thing and just blow it the fuck up. So I think that like there's a way to do this, right? Because it's so scattered and it's so much chaos and there's so much commercialization. But like I really believe that like putting it out there with sort of punk rock spokespeople, people like Jody Bliley from Team Dresch, who was just like incredible trans masked lesbian, with
Mm.
trans folks in her immediate family, people that she knows, and she has an agenda, right? She wants to see, just like I do, gender affirming care be democratized for all, because that's what it really is. That's
Mm.
what men getting
Yeah,
testosterone at Revive Health is, or at the gym.
exactly.
That's what women getting HRT from their doctor, if their doctor's not gaslighting them and abiding by old medicine, old thought. That's what, that's even what birth control is. Like all of it
Mhm.
is gender affirming care. And for trans folks, of course, it's gender affirming care, but it's gotten polarized and like kind of squished into this sort of marginalized area so that it can be taken away from us, right? It's because if they can pin it on the other, which is what they think of trans folks, then they can take it away from everybody.
Mhm.
So the whole medical establishment is still relying on this bad interpretation of like the study, right? So people are getting gaslit. So we're confused, right? So who can we trust? We can trust us. We can trust musicians. We can trust people who are struggling, who look like us, people who are going through treatment, who think like us, people who, are also moms and creatives and want to have a quality of life. Like, we all want to hear what Corin Tucker has to say about this, right? Because she's just an interesting, amazing, down to earth, incredible human that we all respect. She's a person that soundtracked our lives, right? Like all our biggest moments are by the musicians in our lives that have led us through the 90s and led us through the double aughts and led us through the 2010s. Like, Sleater Kinney sells out shows all the time still. And there's so many bands now, women in their 50s returning to music, which is kind of amazing. So we're really in this position to be the sort of, bearers of this change in a way that I think nobody else has been up to this point. And here's why punk rock I think is important, because motherfucking punk, we do not take no for an answer. We're not going to say, okay, let's feel like shit. Like if there's a fucking hack where we can feel better for the rest of our fucking lives, punk rockers are gonna fucking figure it out. Punk is an ethos, right? Punk is a
Yeah.
spirit. We are all, Gen X in general is a pretty punk generation. I don't know. I feel like for me, punk is the obvious kind of way to get into it because it really embodies the spirit of rebellion and revolution. And so, Menopunks isn't just a movie. And obviously, we're making the movie. It's going to come out in 2027. So we've got a year to
Yeah.
make this
I was
film.
gonna ask when it was
Well,
slated. Yeah.
I actually have a question though,
Yeah.
and please don't take this like in any wrong way, but like, like as we're saying like, oh, we should, really question authority, we should question
Mm,
the AMA, like we should, question, and and 100%, I do believe that we should always be asking questions. However, I do have like a little bit of hesitation only because like if you know like how anti-vaxxers operate and like the
Yeah.
people who are into like raw milk and beef tallow and
mm,
all of these
Mom.
things they're saying like, oh well, the establishment, they're just trying to
mm.
make money off of us, da 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 da. How do you keep yourself, or how do you keep the movement accountable to
Mm.
actual science and reality?
That's a good question. Well, I think that there is a lot of good science out there, first of all.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it's overshadowed by all the things people want to sell us and the old narrative of hormone therapy causes breast cancer. But I think that if we're able to start a wave through something like Menopunks and it's backed up by doctors and science, which is part of what we're doing in the film, it's not just me being like, punk rock, hormone therapy, get on it. It's really, I'm talking to incredible medical providers and experts, people who founded the North American Menopause Society, folks who were on the WHI. We have the receipts. So I
Mhm.
think part of it is just trying to set a new baseline of truth
Mhm.
about hormone replacement therapy. Because look, I'm not telling everybody to get on HRT. Not
Mhm.
everybody is necessarily a candidate for HRT, right? Like, but you should
Mhm.
at least know the truth about it. Know that what we're working with now with bioidentical hormones is different than like the horse urine based stuff and the synthetic medroxyprogestins that used to put in our body, which actually have the highest risk for cancer of anything. The
Mhm.
things we can put into our body now literally mimic what's in our body, right? So there's that. So I think
Mhm.
that, and by distilling it into a film, and ultimately I want to make a series and I've got ideas for publishing and music and everything. Like this is, a world I want to build with Menopunks because I think it's a way we can identify that gives us power and doesn't take it away. But I think
Mhm.
if we're able to set this new baseline of truth and like verified truth
Mhm.
about hormone therapy, and it starts a different conversation with not necessarily just about the film, but it starts a conversation with journalists being like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. So there was a bunch of bullshit that went down that made this happen. It wasn't just a misinterpretation of science, or we don't just have newer things now that are safer, but it actually was an intentional narrative put into play to save face by
Mhm.
Congress and the Women's Health Initiative. I think that is a pretty big factor that we don't know. So I think it's like our entire generation and the lost generation and the boomers, for us to really comprehend that we were robbed of choice without even knowing it is
Mhm.
a pretty devastating thing to comprehend.
Mhm.
And I think that like generationally, that's really what I'm trying to put out there. Like not just like I want to, set this new baseline of truth about hormone therapy and like verified scientific fucking fact about it. But
Mhm.
just as importantly, we were robbed of something. Like, yes, we're getting our choice taken away now for abortion, all these things. It's completely insane, but it didn't start there. If you really look at it, it started, well, a long time ago, but really a big, huge chunk of it started in 2002 when we were robbed of choice to potentially better our quality of life for the rest of our lives through a therapy that, even at that point, we had the same drugs that could mimic what was in our bodies. So, like, it's a big ask for the world to catch up with this. And I mean, who knows if what I'm doing is going to work, but I really believe, at least I have to believe, like Don Quixote, that if I'm going to like rail against the windmills, that I'm going to go with all my fucking might to do it. And look, I didn't peg myself as someone that would have the energy for this, because when I first started this process, I felt like shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And while making the movie, I've started feeling better. Like, I just switched from I didn't know it was a synthetic progestin in March because I thought, oh, it says progesterone. I'm on micronized progesterone. No, my doctor didn't know any better. Had me on medroxyprogestin acetate. I didn't understand it before I started talking to doctors. Like, I didn't start talking to doctors until March of this year. And so my doctor at Kaiser had suddenly gone to a seminar and was like, "Oh, how do you feel?" And I was like, "Well, I still feel bloated and I still feel tired and I'm not sleeping. The hot flashes are gone, but this and that. I don't know what's going on. Why do I feel like this?" And she's like, "Oh, why don't I put you on micronized progesterone?" I was like, "I'm not on it." She's like, "Oh no, that's something else. I just went to a seminar and now I think I know a little more about it." And I was like, "Oh my God." So I started feeling better in March, and that really helped me kind of really, like, it just, everything started crystallizing at once.
That's really
Well,
interesting.
Yeah.
also, I want to say, like, that's also interesting too, because I'm also at Kaiser, because I spoke to my doctor about, my gynecologist about hormone replacement therapy. And, they seem to be really open about it. Like, they wanted me to take some classes and things like
Oh my
that.
God,
Like,
the
I don't know
fucking
what the
classes.
classes are, but,
No, you shouldn't
um,
have to take classes.
yeah, yeah,
This
but
this
I
is a
mean,
The
problem.
doctors should be taking the classes.
Yes. See,
yeah.
so Janine, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'll say this. That is
Yeah.
bullshit. So part of the problem with the whole system is they make you jump through so many hoops to even get there. You do not need to be taking a fucking class to learn
Mhm.
about hormone therapy. The hormones you want to take are in your fucking body. You do not need a class to understand that. Okay. What you
Mhm.
should, this is what I had to do with Kaiser. I'm going to give you my Kaiser story briefly because it's a really helpful thing. And actually,
Mhm.
if you go to Menopunks Instagram, I've created there's a whole series of videos about self-advocacy.
Mhm.
And I deal with Kaiser, which a lot of people are on Kaiser. And my doctor said, no, you've got to wait, suffer more, come back when you have more symptoms. She didn't tell me to take the class, or if she did, I was like, I'm not taking this fucking class online. Leave me alone. Like, no, I know what I need. But she wouldn't give them to me. She wouldn't give me. And then eventually, like, I tried taking black cohosh. I took ashwagandha. I did all the herbs you're told to take. It was better for a while, got worse, got worse, got worse, got worse. And I was like, I can't. This is untenable. I cannot live my life with 10 hot flashes an hour. I can't actually be on stage. I'm going to melt into a pool. I can't sleep. My TMJ got worse. My brain fog
Mm.
got worse. Everything was a disaster. I was like, I need this and I need it fucking now. So here's what I did. I, after talking to like a couple doctors, I learned that, like, if you say the words, my quality of life is suffering, and I would like to explore bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, they can't really tell you no. What they can do is put you on the lowest dose for the shortest amount of time, which is actually thinking based on JAMA from 2002, not on reality. It's based on old thinking and the bad interpretation of WHI, right? So I did this with Kaiser, Janine. I was like, okay, I called telehealth, not even my doctor, because I was like, fuck my doctor. God bless her soul. She's in
Mhm.
it. She understands now, but this is 2 years ago. She had no idea. So I called
Mhm.
telehealth. I circumvented my doctor entirely. And I just said, here's the deal. My symptoms are terrible. Here's what they are. My quality of life is 100% suffering. I need help right now. I would like to explore hormone replacement therapy. And they said, okay, and
Mhm.
gave me a prescription right then. I had it that day. And ever since I've been on it. Granted, part of it was the medroxyprogestin, which sucked and hurt me, but it got better once I figured that out. So, things are better now too. I think there's been so much more study and so much press about bioidentical hormones, which is micronized progesterone versus medroxyprogestin acetate. But there is
Mhm.
a way within Kaiser, within any medical system, just say the words, my quality of life is suffering. And I verified this through the five doctors that I've interviewed for the film. I
Mhm.
said, just to test this out, if I came to you as a patient and I said, my quality of life is in the pooper, it is suffering. I need help right now. And I want to take whatever chance, whatever risk I want to explore hormone replacement therapy, they kind of have to give it to you. They don't really have a choice because the words quality of life is suffering is sort of built into their whole ethos of medicine. So
Mm.
that's something interesting to know, that can change things for you. So you don't have to take the fucking class. I haven't taken it, but I bet it's not all completely accurate. Some of it might still be based on Journal of American Medicine. Know the risks. Know that you could get hurt. Know that this can cause this. I mean, there
Hmm.
are still some risks for women. I'm not saying there are no risks, but like there's even different thinking for cancer survivors taking bioidentical hormone therapy, right? Like the risk of having a glass of wine every day gives you a higher chance of cancer than taking bioidentical hormones every day, right? For someone who's had cancer, just to give you an example. So I am over the fucking classes they tell you to take. I think it's an excuse to get you to do a thing before coming back and actually advocating for yourself. So I think
Hmm.
I think it's a problem. I don't think it's a solution. And
Mm.
it's another way they waylay you from finding relief.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Is
Yeah.
the goal is the goal to eventually change? Because I looked up, I just Googled just in preparation. I was doing some research for this interview and I just Googled Women's Health Initiative. I wanted to like confirm that it came out in 2002, make sure I had the right
Yeah.
date or something like that. And so all this stuff comes up from Google and like you know how now it like kind of pre-populates a series of questions that you might want to ask about the topic that you're researching. So one of the questions was, what did the Women's Health Initiative do? And so I clicked on that drop down and it said, the Women's Health Initiative found that there's an increased risk of breast cancer if you take hormone. It said like
Mm.
exactly what, that press release
Yep.
decided to say. So it still says that when any
Yep.
woman Googles Women's Health Initiative or hormone
Yep.
replacement, like, so what, is
It's a
one of your
nightmare.
goals with your film to get that language changed? I don't know if that's
Fuck
even
yes.
like, do they? Yeah, good.
But here's the thing. Again, if it doesn't go, it has to be a demand from women. It's not just like I can do a
Hmm.
movie, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm trying to spark a wave. Like this is it with anger. Let me just be clear. Like I want to start a revolution in women's healthcare. Okay. Midlife healthcare is fucked. We get confronted with Google telling us that the one thing that can actually provide us with quality of life can kill us. Still, this is
Hmm.
not true. It is
No.
not fucking true. And we Google it and it's right there. I feel so bad for every single woman who's like miserable with 10 hot flashes an hour, being like, isn't there something that can help me with this? I heard there was. They Google it and they're like, oh, I have to decide that maybe I want to die if I want to feel better. Like, how is that a fucking choice?
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
yeah, so part of what we want to do with the film, not only within the film set this sort of new baseline for truth and self-advocacy, but we want to affect legislation. We want to enshrine access to hormone care into the constitution, basically state and nationwide, for access for everybody. Like we need to have access enshrined, not just to abortion, of course, but also to hormone replacement therapy. And we need to have this information kind of completely changed over. And unfortunately, like it's going to take, more than 5% of women pushing, to get this out there to change that. Right. So, like, I'm hoping, I mean, this is just, whatever, like me as like a Jewish energy witch trying to figure shit out over in Portland, Oregon. But like I really believe that like in order to change this, as Robert Langer, he's the scientist on the original WHI, he's like, Alicia, I don't know how you're going to change this narrative. We have tried over and over and over again.
Mm.
There's been a million articles written. New York Times released something that was actually super towards the actual truth, not bullshit. Even the FDA is now working to take the black box warning off of vaginal estrogen and other products. Black box warning meaning it's going to cause cancer, but it's not. Like it's all based on those results in 2002. So I can see it. Like I can see the wave cresting right now if we can kind of push it over. So Bob's like, I don't know how you're going to change this perspective. He's like, the only thing I think that could change this is anger. And I
Mm.
was like, ooh, challenge accepted. I can piss off Gen X. That'll be fun. I know how to do this. Punk rock is the way, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, how do we create a wave as powerful as the Golden Girls wave? Right?
Yeah.
If we can distill this on other people, there's other films as well, there's other series, we're all doing it together. If we together can sort of get the information into a place where it can create community and
Mm.
conversation in a massive way, it will change in Google. It will. So I'm coming at this film from like having it be fun to watch so that it's not just for women in fucking perimenopause and menopause, it's for everybody.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, literally talk about this for the entire day, but we do have
No.
to we have to start wrapping up. One quick thing I wanted to ask you about to sort of get our listeners involved is you
Yeah.
mentioned on your Instagram that there's you're like soliciting stories from women, so maybe our listeners would be interested in
Yes.
hearing about that.
Well, first of all, if you can follow us on the socials, very slutty there as well. But I do a lot of like front facing work where I'm giving sort of tips for self advocacy and help and understanding and showcasing other people in the same realm and lots of cool music and fun rad shit. And also, we're doing a podcast, which is something that I really want people to engage in. That should be launching in the next couple of weeks. I'm diving into sort of any potential zone in the menopause, perimenopause sphere that people have questions on. Now, stories. I mean, I have literally had hundreds of people contact me, just so happy that anybody is in this space at all trying to do this work, and they just want to be seen and they just want to be heard, and they're dealing with a shitty doctor or tons of suffering, or they found a way through and they can't believe they feel better, or there's like a million variations on how they've been through it or what's going on in their lives. So, I was like, what do I do with all these stories? This is wild. So I started talking to my friend Heather Hawksford, who is a brilliant artist and human being here in Portland, Oregon. She has a thing called Human Reproductive Stories. And we decided to collaborate and make a version of this called a Human Perimenopause and Menopause Stories. So on the menopunks.com website, we have a section that says blog, and it is basically like a public blog that anybody can contribute their stories to, and you can search anybody else's stories, all
Mm.
anonymously, for anything you want to know about. So if you're like, hot flashes suck, you type in hot flash, and then you're like, whoo, there's a bunch of stories. You'd be like, oh my God, it's not just me, right? Or my
Mm.
doctor said that I couldn't do this, or I had to take a class, Jennine. You're like, what the fuck? I want my hormones. Why do I have to take a class? The main thing that I want to do with Menopunks is build community, because the only way we're going to change the fucking world is by doing it together. But the reality is, like, ever since, so many people have written me saying that they are a menopunk. And that is so cool. So, yes, maybe it came out of my weird brain, but it is not mine. Just like any good movement, it is anybody's. Anybody can have menopunk for themselves. To have a way to refer to ourselves and to build community through other people like us, through menopunks, that's what it's all about. So I want to start a movement through this film. The film is just a small part of the whole thing, right? I really feel like, it benefits us right now to be on this movement and to make this change, but it's going to benefit everybody ultimately if we do it. So why not?
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that you got your energy back because of HRT and are able to do all of this. Like, thank
You.
God. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm a good example of what can happen. I should mention, since this is a fashion podcast, part of the way that we are supporting the film and people can support the film, obviously, is to sign up on our mailing list on menopunks.com, or like us on Menopunks on Instagram, or Menopunks film on TikTok or Facebook. But also, we make merch. One of our incredible participants, Jen Spraja, who's in the Softies and All Girls Summer Fun Band, she designed our logos. And here you can see our
Oh,
amazing,
Cool. I
incredible
cute.
like
stickers
it.
and our very sexy t-shirts.
Very
And
cool.
we live in the world of on-demand merch. And so we created an on-demand merch store where vast majority of the proceeds go to making the film and to supporting the Menopunks movement. So please, if you feel like supporting us, go to Menopunks, support us by buying merch and then representing as a Menopunk yourself. Or you can make a tax-deductible donation through our website as well.
Yeah. Oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
spending the time today. It has been amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yay.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.